Hey guys, welcome to Questions You Have, Answers I Give, the Steele Wars podcast Patreon question and answer show, or as the kids say, Q&A. Well, everyone says that, but I just caught on to it. It's admittedly been a really big week. But we've got 4 questions to get through from our patrons, and our patrons can listen to this on the direct podcast feed. Maybe you're doing that right now, or this episode. We're going to put every Q&A episode up in full on YouTube, but it will also be on YouTube. So if you are on YouTube and you want to listen and hear more, consider becoming a patron from just $1, and then you can submit questions or cues for me to answer or for me to A. Confusing? It shouldn't be. I have no idea why I'm going on about this. But yes, let's get to a question and see how we go. Kyle Delaney, who he has been a Patreon member for quite a while, and we appreciate that, Kyle. How long do you think episode 9 will be in order to finish off all the potential storylines? I think episode 9 is a lot different to like Revenge of the Sith in that George Lucas had his story to tell and all his adventures for the characters to go on, but they also had to like meet up and fill in all this stuff that it didn't really seem like he was that interested in filling in, because he didn't till the last 15 minutes of the film. Now, Revenge of the Sith is it's an awesome film, and it's many of my friends' favorite Star Wars film, in fact. But I did find the last 15 minutes was like, oh, we've got to fill in all this backstory, so it makes sense with Star Wars. Episode 9 doesn't have that issue, because whatever the end is for J.J. Abrams or Lucasfilm, Disney, Bobby I, it doesn't have to fit with anything. There's no episode 10 that's already been out there that you've got to connect all the dots for and, explain why C-3PO can't remember stuff and how Yoda got onto Dagobah. I'll tell you a thing about, I was thinking about this the other day. Here's something that would have made, I like it when new Star Wars films don't change like our perception of something. Like, they don't retcon something in a previous film, but they enhance it. For instance, watching Empire Strikes Back after watching Solo and seeing Lan and, did I say Lan? Han, and Lando, not combined. I made them into I think I shipped them. Lan, or Hando. Lan's tighter, but Hando sort of explains it more. And why am I going on about this? Ugh. Anyway, but yeah, watching Empire Strikes Back after, seeing those guys at the Sabak table, it was, it enriched it. It made it, it was really fun. There's a line in Empire Strikes Back that I wish George Lucas sort of took and did something with. And that's Luke's line of when he arrives on Dagobah and he says, there's something familiar about this place, Dagobah. And I remember back in in the prequel times, it was often, before Revenge of the Sith came out, it was theorized that maybe Naboo was Dagobah and something could happen to the planet, and that's why Luke sort of remembered it or something like that. But yeah, there was sort of like people trying to work out how the thread of Luke kind of remembering this place would, do that. And my gripe with Revenge of the Sith, one of them, is that Lucas went the other way and didn't even really explain how Princess Leia remembered Padme. And I know you can sort of come up with like in the womb or whatever, but it's, I don't know. There's a fan edit of Revenge of the Sith where they edit in some footage from another film, and it kind of, Padme's story ends with her arriving on Alderaan to sort of for safekeeping, and she's with Leia. Hence establishing how they would know each other. And I don't know what. I guess maybe she passed soon after. It's very sad. I love Padme, but yeah, so it's sort of like he wasn't really into that sort of stuff, it seemed, because there was such a glaring thing of, Leia says that she remembers Padme, so you sort of think that's like written in stone that they have to end up together for a certain period of time. And I'm sure if I look into it or someone wants to sort of polish it or put me at ease, it could have been in the womb, and we're pregnant right now, so it is, we do feel like, not so much me, but my wife is very connected to our little boy, so I see that, but I'm gonna tuck away my warm feelings for my child and put on my angry nerd hat and say, I don't buy it, Lucas. I don't buy it. So there's that. But why am I going with this? Oh, okay. So, oh my, I'm so off Kyle's question, but this is welcome to what this show's all about. It's tangents you have, questions might go unanswered. So I thought it would have been cool at the end of Revenge of the Sith. I only just thought of this the other day, so it wasn't like I was theorizing this in 2004 or something like that. But if they worked out that Obi-Wan dropped off Yoda at Dagobah and Luke was there too. So on the way to Tatooine, they dropped off Yoda. Hence, and maybe they could have had a scene, like a discussion, like that's where they worked out the plan or something. Let's rendezvous. They rendezvous at Dagobah with Bail Antilles and stuff. That would have been, and then where they sort of have their plan, they could have had of that on the planet, and Luke could have been there. Then when Luke returns to Dagobah in Empire Strikes Back and says there's something familiar about this place, ta-da! It's all connected. Without poetry, it's still all connected. So, but to answer your question, JJ doesn't have those issues. So, and he's also left with a very clean slate. Now, Ryan Johnson, he, by, killing Luke Skywalker and by killing Supreme Leader Snoke, and for those not watching this, listening to on the Patreon podcast feed, I'm not buying Luke is not, he's a Force Ghost, but Snoke's not coming back. I would be disappointed / appalled if Snoke came back. The one thing I don't want JJ do is to I don't know, do silly retcons and stuff like that, which I don't think he would. He's a master storyteller. Probably doesn't need to. So I don't think it really has to be that much longer, because it's like, it's kind of going to be a pretty, like, of course there's going to be like so many references and stuff, but the actual action of the film is kind of going to be pretty self-contained. Do you know what I mean? There's no, at the start of the film, no one has to be anywhere. You know, Han's not in carbonite. You know, Ray didn't just arrive on Ahch-To. It's more of a Attack of the Clones type situation where it was 10 years later, and so the pieces were wherever you want to put them. So with that, I don't really think it has to be a longer film. I'm up for it though. Give us like The Last Jedi is a sweet chunky watch. You're getting your value for money in the theater. So yeah, I don't really think with all of that it does have to be substantially longer than another film because it doesn't have all the threads to tie together. It's obviously we want to see the conclusion of the Skywalker saga, and what is the fate of Rey and Poe and Finn and Kylo Ren, but you don't have that thing in Revenge of the Sith, which was the other time that we got the final chapter in the Skywalker saga. Or that was the second to last time. It's my favorite lie. I talk about this all the time, guys. That my favorite lie is this is the last film in the Skywalker saga. I heard it in '83. I bought it. I was devastated. I was a little kid. I didn't even know adults could lie. I thought it was something I invented. But yeah, and then in Revenge of the Sith, I actually remember coming out and thinking, oh, that's it again. And having that same feeling from when I was like, a tiny little kid of like, ugh, but they were so fun. Which is why we are in the gravy days of Star Wars, guys. We're not just dipping our little bread roll in gravy. We are dunking our head, dunking in the Star Wars gravy. There's so much stuff. Yeah. So thanks, Kyle. Really appreciate it. Don't you're probably going to have some extra free time in Christmas 2019 to, I don't know, listen to one of these podcasts, hopefully. Sam Scorsoni, another long time Patreon member. Thank you, Sam. I would appreciate it though, Sam. I like it because when you go to Patreon, you've got you can set up a little account, and you put in your name, and sometimes people don't put in a photo, which I sort of get because you've got to put in a photo on your Facebook, Twitter. It's like when you have to fill in another one of these things. Trust me, I'm there. It's a battle. But if you don't, you just come up as like a fox head as your avatar, and I don't really get to. It's easier for me to identify with Kyle because he's got a photo of himself in a hat. Sam, you're a foxhead. Now, I appreciate the Fox communities, particularly the animated Fox communities, support of the podcast. But get a photo, Sam. Get a photo. And I'm now wondering if any of this makes any sense without anyone else being able to see the screen. He's got a little Fox avatar. It's a default thing on Patreon, okay? Am I spending more time talking about everything than the actual questions? Perhaps. Sam Scorsoni asks, should Force Ghost Anakin make a reference to sand? Funny question. But no. Maybe it's in my bubble, and I will do some research. One of my world famous Twitter polls, but Force Ghost Anakin, it definitely seems to be one of the main binding hopes for episode 9. It's definitely one of mine just because of just the intriguing possibilities of what he's going to say. I just want to know what he has to say. And yeah, he shouldn't. He shouldn't, Sam. He shouldn't. Because For Force Ghost Anakin to work, it has to be written masterfully. It has to be directed masterfully, and it has to be acted masterfully. And, a definite, well heard criticism of Revenge of the Sith and Attack of the Clones is Hayden Christensen's acting. But it's also a criticism of most people in that film or those films. So, George Lucas, genius, hero, like unintended mentor. Do you know what I mean? He was, all of us teaching us about, values and storytelling and all that sort of stuff. The acting, he's not an actor's director. So, and I have not seen, I think it's Life as a House. Is that what the movie's called? Life as a House? Or Life in a House? I think it's Life as a House. Where people really compliment his acting in that. And I haven't seen it, but if he spends 2 hours or so portraying a house, amazing. Where were the Oscars for Best House? I assume he played the title role, but he has got chops, or he had chops, and I think with that support network, and how can you not have a top class support network when you're about to unleash $1 billion film? I think they can make the scene the scene I'm making up in my head with Force Ghost Anakin, Force Ghost Luke, Rey, and Kylo in some sort of combo. It can be like the quintessential Star Wars scene, because we're not just wrapping up 3 films, we're wrapping up 9 films. And I feel like that scene with 3 generation of Skywalker, and then with the Skywalker in spirit. And it is my hope that Rey does end up with the surname Skywalker. I think if she is given that name or takes that name from Luke, I kind of would I'm very Luke centric, so I would really like for Luke to give her that name. I don't know. I'm not sure if she should take it, but I would love that. Or is she just going to be like Rey forever? Just Rey. I just think it would be rad. Don't you want to buy a Hasbro figure and down the bottom it says Rey Skywalker? I do. But answer your question, Sam. No. Force Ghost Anakin should not make a reference to sand. Jonathan Heil. Here we go. This is the Ripper question. What big moments do you want to see Luke have in episode 9? Is Ignite the Green still possible? Now, for those that don't know, Ignite the Green was my number 1 hope for The Last Jedi. I went on about it quite a bit. I made stickers, I made t-shirts, and I said it a lot. And it kind of happened. You can listen to, if you're interested for how I dealt with that, I did a podcast just after The Last Jedi, driving to the airport actually with my wife in the car, where I realized what I wanted out of Ignite the Green, which wasn't it was like, do you know what I mean? I wanted Luke Skywalker to be a hero again, just one more time. And because I don't have the imagination of Rian Johnson, for me, it was just I just want Sail Barge Part 2. I just want him to get his lightsaber, green lightsaber, my favorite lightsaber. The sail barge is my favorite scene of all time. And I just wanted him to clear house and save everyone again, like we'd already seen in Return of the Jedi, which, you know, I'm sure a lot of people wanted to see. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of, and I know because I've talked to so many people about it, but, you know, their like disappointment with The Last Jedi was due in part to not having something like that, to have like a, you know, big last hurrah for Luke Skywalker. Others see the crate scene as his big last hurrah, and you know, how you interpret it or what you get out of it, it's your call. But so it didn't happen. But one theory that got lodged in my head that I screamed about forever was Horst Burkhardt from the Blue Harvest podcast put this in my head, and I've never been able to let it go. His theory was that Luke had put the green lightsaber back into R2-D2 for safekeeping. And then when Luke's patting R2's head after the temple burned down, it's him, he'd just put it back in there and just gone, you hang on to this, I'm not using it anymore. So we were hoping in The Last Jedi that, you know, it would eject and ignite the green. Now that I think about it and I'm saying it out loud, The Last Jedi builds on this, because the last known time that Luke Skywalker used the green lightsaber was when, in a rush of anger or fear, he ignited the saber above the bed of Kylo Ren. So it would fit in the story perfectly. Perfectly. If he had it in there still. Because it fits with why his motivations for putting it in. He's like, I'm done. That's it. I'm all forced out, you guys. I'm all forced out. It's time to go hang out with some porgs and do some fishing in my old age. So that would fit perfectly. Consider this. Rey doesn't have a lightsaber. Is the kyber crystal broken in it? It seemed to be. Anyway, it's broken. I'm sure in that time she's tried to fix it. Who wouldn't? You know, any of us. Whether it was a snapped Hasbro saber or a FX whatever. When we break our lightsabers, we try fix them. It's human nature. But what if she hasn't fixed it yet, or something happens to her? Either way, she hasn't got a lightsaber. She's knocked on the ground, draining. Kylo Ren moves towards her, flanked by the Knights of Ren. He's got his mask back on because Snoke's gone. So he's going to rock his cool mask again because no one's going to diss it anymore. So he's whipped up another one. Kylo Ren kills the last person that could possibly help. A clan leader that looks suspiciously like Constable Zuvio in that hat. And it's the flash forward. The Force back from The Force Awakens had a Force forward in it. And Rey was seeing into the future of when Kylo Ren was going to finish her off. She doesn't have a lightsaber. But her one companion left. is astromech droid R2-D2. Yeah, you might have heard of him. He beeps urgently. Rey glances. R2 opens his dome, and a lightsaber appears. The green lightsaber from Return of the Jedi. He shoots it up. He doesn't even have to arch it because Rey gets it as it's up and brings it down, holds it up. Ignite the green. I am getting emotional. Might not happen. But here's my challenge, J.J. Abrams. Come up with something better than that, buddy. If you're not going to use it, beat it. Beat it! That would be dope. Jonathan, yes, Ignite the Green is still possible. And our final question is from Thomas Sutton. What are your favorite small moments from the new films? Do you mean like small Star Wars moments? Like just bizarre, weird stuff where you're just like, that's what I sort of like those things like they're so weird and mundane, but fantastic. You know, I think this is definitely like a good example would be just like Aunt Beru pouring the blue milk, and she's just going about her business. She doesn't care that the milk's blue, you know. It's how it is on Tatooine, and just that mundane kitchen family life, which you know we can all sort of relate to, because unless you guys, every time you're in the kitchen with your family, it's non-stop action. But it wasn't in mine, trust me. And yeah, I like that sort of thing. So I'll try to think of a couple. The first one that definitely comes to mind is the no, it's not the sandcrawler. What is that thing called? Sandworm? Whatever that thing is that's like when Rey walks off on Jakku at night and that thing comes up and looks around. Brilliant. Like, it doesn't have to be there. It's just like a little gift. You know, like that weird dog pig thing that sucks down something out the front of Jabba's palace. Just these little like tantalizing, like just like slithers of galactic life. Oh man, let's think of some other ones. I likewise I love the what are those things called? The sirens. Whatever Luke gets the milk out of, and all these people don't like. I love that. Not because people don't like it. It's just so. I love that it's. I never would have imagined it. Do you know what I mean? I just thought it was like I was like, oh, yeah, he's doing it rough. He has to get milk from somewhere. Like I thought that was really cool. Think off the top of my head. How about this, patrons? If you want, if you want to ask a question, you just go to this link on the link for this episode that I've posted on Patreon, and in the comments you just write a question. If you have a favorite small moment from the new film, if whether you're asking a question or not, drop that in, and maybe we can do an episode about that. There's a few Chewie Han moments in Solo where I was like, yeah, just looks, just some hanging out. You know, like even when just after the mud fight and they're on that that ship and the winds blowing in Chewie's hair. Just delightful. Delightful. Anytime Ben Mendelsohn exists, that's a pretty special little moment there. Big moment, really. Yeah, sorry I didn't come through with the goods. Definitely that sand thing from The Force Awakens. And that was definitely, even like on opening night, I was just like, brilliant. Because it's just extra topping, which is sick. That's it for the Q&A, but we will, of course, endeavor to do one next week. But what we need is questions. So if you're a patron on Patreon, drop a question. It's easy underneath this episode. And if you want to join us on Patreon, it's just starts at $1 a month, and then there's high tiers that get you more bonus content, t-shirts, and stickers. You can also check out, if you are on YouTube, our bi-weekly news and call-in show, which live streams on video, called Hyper Chat, and the latest episode is up now with Araj from the Sith List and Emma Fyth from Collider's Schmodown and the Pencils and Parsecs show. So you guys can check that out. If you enjoyed if you watched to the end, I don't know, it seems like you would have enjoyed it, unless you're some bizarre hate viewer, which I'm sure there are a few of you. But give us a thumbs up and write a comment underneath the comments. And it helps other people see it. Apparently, that is the mysteries of the internet. Thank you guys so much. Thank you especially to our patrons. And may that force be with you.